The president wants to spy on 200 million Americans without a warrant. Has he read this document, which he was sworn to uphold?
Now, I will not have you libel Abraham Lincoln.
I don't understand the problem with registering guns. We register cars.
Mark Levine brings you the news the government doesn't want you to know.
Today, an explosive story about connections between white supremacists and Islamic terrorists.
When there's a conflict between Scalia's conservative values and the Constitution of the United States, he throws away the Constitution.
When we do have secret prisons, that is not what America's all about.
Let's go to Mark in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Good evening, America. Welcome to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine. Many of you know that I am a longtime liberal Democrat. I worked for Congressman Barney Frank as a congressional attorney, and I voted Democratic in every presidential election. But today, April 1st, 2013, I've decided to make a change. I've been thinking about it. You know, I was with the Occupy Wall Street movement. We marched for the 99%, and it's tough to be in the 99%. The 99% gets practically nothing. So I've decided if you can't beat the 1%, and gosh knows the Occupy movement did not beat the 1%, then one should join the 1%. So I have put on a bow tie, and I've decided that, in essence, George Will was right. We should be a conservative. We should fear change. We should stand up for the powers that be, because the powers that be have the power for a reason. If something exists, it is ipso facto right, and therefore should be supported. And let's face it, the 1% don't have to work like the other 99%. They can simply inherit lots of money without any kind of estate tax. And that way, if your grandfather was the Earl of Nottingham or your great-grandfather owned a plantation, you can be well off for the rest of your life. I'm firmly opposed to any redistribution of wealth because I understand that wealth is always gained by honor and dignity, and therefore it should never be shared. So I've decided to join the New American Majority. This is an organization, and I've invited the executive director of that organization, Matt Robbins. Matt Robbins, I want to be a conservative. You'll have to teach me how. I've got the get-up, but I need to learn more of the philosophy, so I'm looking for you to train me tonight.
Well, it's ironic, Mark. It's ironic that you finally completed your journey at the same time I've completed mine. I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was Easter or the new Pope or the closing of the White House tours for all the school children or the cancellation of the Easter egg roll and Easter egg hunt at the White House. The sequester has hit disproportionately the smallest and weakest among us, and I sort of had a road to Damascus experience myself. So I have finally, after years of training Tea Partiers and Glenn Beck 912ers and hardcore Goldwater Reagan conservatives, I finally, I think as Dr. Seuss would say, my heart has grown at least 3 sizes. And I've finally sort of had this paradigm shift and realized that, oh my God, we're all in this together. And if we could just link arms and link hands, and if I could join my liberal brethren and seek social justice and really sort of do this hands across America and this giant AIDS quilt approach to bringing all of us together, forgetting our differences, finding strength through diversity, finding the beauty that is in the progressive experiment that equalizes and communizes all of us. That's in a good sense, not communist in a negative way, communal like the early church, like the true vision of Jesus Christ. It's a beautiful thing, I'm sorry I didn't reach it sooner.
No, I'm in a state of shock because I came to join your movement. I too want to be a Goldwater, George Will, Ronald Reagan, Sarah Palin conservative.
I was mistaken.
I want to understand the wisdom of Sarah Palin. I've had difficulty understanding her brilliance in the past, and I want to understand that now. I want to.
I struggled the same way with Joe Biden, but it's become clear to me now.
Well,
it really has.
Here's what I've understood.
The pearls he's cast out.
Here's what I've understood. The individual is the center of humanity. And if I can't help myself, then why should anyone be forced to help me? I am kingdom of my domain. I am in charge. And if I'm in the 1%, I should remain in the 1%, and others should serve me. And to me, and I get it now. I mean, you can work really hard, and it's hard to try to help others. And you get your hands dirty.
I'd humbly submit.
Why do that?
I would humbly submit to you, Mark, that like me, before this weekend, before this Passover and Easter weekend, you've missed the point. You've missed the point of this entire democratic experiment. I know we're not a pure democracy like Athens, but we are a republic, and we want representative government, and we want power to the people. The first 3 words, we the people, of the Constitution that we both worship. Absolutely,
No.
absolutely.
Look, is George Will, the person that I
Right.
really have modeled myself after, said very clearly, people are too dumb to vote. He made
Yeah.
it very clear. He wrote an interesting op-ed that I read it was about a year ago when he talked about the fact that a lot of people simply aren't educated. They vote based on the candidate that looks the best or that they like or that's funny, and that's silly. We really, if we kept the vote like
That's
Athens,
such a cynical-
to the people with property, for example, like our founders believed in. And, in my Constitution, and by the way, this is the one from the Heritage Foundation, which I understand is the correct version of the Constitution.
That's right.
In my Constitution,
the King James version of the Constitution.
Yes, the original Constitution only gave rights to white men with property because
And
we
wigs.
understood. Yes, they had to have the wigs, but you could buy the wigs with your
Correct.
property. And it's very simple. Women and minorities and poor people have ruined the original experiment. I am an originalist. I believe in the wisdom of the founders, and I believe that white men with property should be the only ones with the right to vote.
Not so, Mark. They counted African Americans as 3/5 of a person from the beginning.
But they couldn't
from
vote.
the beginning.
But they couldn't vote.
They couldn't vote, and
They
neither,
were
neither
3/5
could
of a
women.
person.
But I think,
and I'd be willing to give them 3/5 of all rights.
and I think that's that's misguided. But my point is that even the founders saw an emerging, a growing, a burgeoning nation that would never be static, that would never be the same. They had to have foreseen the changes and twists and bends in the road. They had to understand suffrage for women. They had to understand the Civil War was coming, only delayed, and slavery would bring our black brethren into the fold. And eventually, such things as rights for gay Americans, such things as rights for disabled Americans, all these individuals, many of whom are being supported by the federal government out of the goodness of all Americans' hearts, they had to foresee this time when this utopia would come, and we're here.
The
and it's
founders
finally become clear to me.
Put people in the stocks for sodomy.
No.
The founders beat their slaves. Thomas Jefferson wrote, "All men are created equal." He didn't include women. The idea that women could vote, this liberal craziness, and look what's happened. Look what's happened all around the world. Women can vote, and is our world in the state where it should be? We need to go back to the originalists, the wisdom of the founders.
Change, Mark, change. I can't believe I'm having to lecture you on this, and I understand it's a shock, but change is a really healthy thing. It really is. You never stay the same whether you start in kindergarten and finish in senior year or finish in college. You're not the same person anymore, or finish college, or get married, or go through life. You're not the same, and a country is the same. A country is a living, breathing thing. It evolves, it adapts, just like our president, who's been so insightful and so wise on issues one after the other, none of which are political, all of which are just randomly and spontaneously timed to occur with his inner growth. I mean, the man has no eye for politics whatsoever, no eye for campaign gain. He simply utters what hits his heart and what hits his mind, and that's why I love him. He's authentic. He's the real deal. I'm with him on going forward, and I want 4 more years if we could have it.
Our president is a Kenyan Muslim socialist.
Oh, my God.
And I want to get into the specifics of each of those in just a second. Before I do, though, I want to quote John Milton of Paradise Lost, because we conservatives understand the beauty of old literature and what he said in his great poem, a very long poem.
It was.
But the heart of it can be said in 4 words. The heart of the poem was, "Whatever is right." And to me, that's what a conservative is. If marriage is a certain way, it should always be that way. If we have slaves, it should always be that way. And frankly, I question the American Revolution because we had kings for thousands of years as English subjects. We really should have been loyal to the kings. We should understand that the order that exists is always right, and we shouldn't question the existing order because when you do, all kinds of horrible things happen. Look at the French Revolution. They killed their king, and it led to a reign of terror. We need to respect the orders that be.
Oh, Mark, I want to start quoting, things about your heart and your soul and your mind. I want to start singing some Jackson Browne or Joan Baez. But in reality, the greatest poet of our time is John Lennon, who said, "Imagine there's no country." I mean, that's a man who truly understood the devolution and the distribution of power to all peoples, not just Americans. He saw a time with no frontiers, no borders, no boundaries, when we could just make love, not war.
And there's a
What's
reason-
wrong with that slogan?
there's
What's
a
wrong with staying
reason
in
why
bed?
John Lennon was
What's wrong
shot.
with staying in bed? Oh my God. What's wrong with staying in bed and making love, not war? That's my question.
There's a reason why John Lennon
That's
was shot.
my question.
Frankly, if we had more guns available, someone could have protected John Lennon from being shot. But obviously, there weren't enough guns around, and John Lennon had to die because we did not have sufficient guns. In my view, the real restriction on guns...
Such a fundamental misreading of the Second Amendment.
No.
Such a fundamental misreading of the Second Amendment.
The Second Amendment says every person gets to bear whatever arms they want.
It does.
And I say...
No.
Machine
Would you
guns,
like to read it, actually?
tanks.
Would you like to read the
sure,
actual
it says the right of people to keep
amendment?
and bear arms shall not be infringed.
Right.
Right.
And that includes 50 calibers and nuclear weapons,
Arms,
and
any kind of
Moabs
weapons.
and daisy cutters.
And the reason we
military
need that,
style
we need that
arms,
because
right.
government can be tyranny. And we need every individual to protect
your mind.
against
Your
tyranny.
mind is locked in the manacles of fear. Your mind is completely imprisoned in the agents of fear and repression. You've got to open yourself up. You've got to open yourself up to the societal changes around you. This country is getting younger, getting browner, getting more beautiful, getting younger.
Well, that's a
problem.
problem.
And those ideas you have are sadly out of date.
Well, that's a problem. I mean, we have illegals.
I'm glad for my conversion.
Swarming across the border.
I'm glad it's coming.
Trying
as it
to speak
has.
languages other than English, which has always been the official language of the American people.
It's
and
actually
now
not.
You liberals
It's
just want them
actually
to
not.
come in here and give them citizenship just so they vote for you.
Mark,
when none of them have waited in line.
Are they not people like us?
The English,
do they not breathe the
Germans
same
waited in
air
line
that
to
we
come
breathe?
here?
Do they not have the same kinds of families and bleed the same way you and I bleed? Do they not deserve? No human being can be illegal, Mark. You know that.
They can't.
No human being is illegal.
These are criminals.
They're undocumented.
They
They're
should
undocumented.
be deported. And if we can't deport them all, they should self-deport.
They're just people looking for a better life. They're coming to the Statue of Liberty with that poem by Emma Lazarus on it. Bring me your poor. Bring me your huddled masses yearning. They're the same. They're the equivalent of your grandparents and my grandparents.
They are changing the complexion of this country.
In a beautiful, brown, black is beautiful way.
This country
They really are.
used to believe in white Anglo-Saxon Protestant values.
I think that's a misguided, look at history. And that's very small segments of the country. This country's always been about communal living, always been about going forward together.
Absolutely not.
It
Check out the
has.
founders. Did they respect the Native the Indians
Oh,
that were here?
they loved Squanto. They did. They loved Pocahontas.
In Washington, we call them the Redskins.
Did
Did they respect the Redskins? No.
They appreciated
No.
the Indians
understood
teaching them.
White man's burden was to take this nation from the Redskins.
No,
it
you got it
belonged to
all
us from
wrong.
the outset.
They saw the colors of the wind, Mark. They understood the spirit animals, the animal spirits, and the visions that were presented to them. They got it all. And we're getting back to that as we legalize marijuana and peyote in more and more states.
Well, exactly. You become a liberal, and the first thing you do is support drugs.
It's
The fourth thing you do
it's-
is support people getting high.
It's an altered
Sex, drugs,
reality.
and rock and
It's an
roll.
altered.
That's
It's an
all
enhanced.
liberals care
It's
about.
an enhanced
You don't
sensibility.
care about John Milton. You don't care
You
about
should
George
let yourself
Will.
go,
You don't
Mark.
care
You should
about
open
the
your
founders.
mind, get out of the stodgy old books, and actually live life. Take a deep breath. Walk around. Hug your fellow man.
I was going to join your organization, the New American Majority, but
American Majority,
the
yeah.
American
And I'll have to
Majority,
resign,
excuse me.
because of my conversion.
Well, it seems to me that there is a reason to join the Tea Party. But frankly, I want to hear from you. What do you think about liberal conservative arguments? What do you think about transitioning from one view to another? Give us a call. Let us know. 888-488-MARK. 888-488-6275 or 571-749-1166 as we celebrate today, April 1st, 2013.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams that inspire us. Multiple sclerosis is a devastating disease that changes lives forever. The National MS Society does more for people with MS than any organization in the world. But we can't do it alone. To get involved, visit us online at nationalmssociety.org or call 1-800-FIGHT-MS. This is why we're here. Because nobody dreams of having multiple sclerosis.
What's wrong with this picture? Half of young Americans can't locate economic powers like Japan and India. 20% can't even find the Pacific Ocean. Without geography, our children aren't ready for the world. Geography is everywhere. It's incredible creatures, rhythm, fashion, flavor. It's economics and politics. It's change. Understanding connections between people and places is critical in the 21st century. That's why we created mywonderfulworld.org. Go there now for your free parent and teacher action kits and give our kids the power of global knowledge. Because kids who understand our world today can succeed in it tomorrow.
Some dreams are universal. Dreams
to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I am Mark Levine, longtime liberal Democrat, but I've been thinking about it, and today, April 1st, 2013, I'm going to make a new change in my life. I have decided to wear the outfit, and I'm asking Matt Robbins, who's executive director of the American Majority.
That's right.
Really how to be part of the 1%. I've got the bow tie, and I wore the tux, but it seems that waiters also wear bow ties and tuxes. How does the 1% determine who's the waiter and who's the plutocrat? I'm really trying to learn here.
Well, and this is the false choice of conservatism, as I've learned personally the hard way. Having to see and interact and deal with the help, and having to actually distinguish yourselves.
Well, but we have to distinguish ourselves.
You do.
The help has to serve us.
You do, but finally it was that sort of immersion in the greater public and the common man that brought me to my realization that I should be part of the 99%. Why
That's why you grew a beard?
It is, absolutely. I've been in a Starbucks all weekend. I've been quoting beat poetry. Been smoking a little ganja. It's been great.
Really?
It really has. It's really opened up.
Shocking.
Really opened up my sensibilities.
Have you been arrested yet? Because
not
I
at
can
all.
call the cops.
Not at all. Not at all. Washington D.C. is a wonderful bastion. It's like a small little bubble incubator of left freedom.
I'll have to make sure to arrange for your arrest.
Washington D.C. is covered by Democrats, governed by Democrats. You can do anything you want in Washington D.C. It's kind of like that. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump where all the hippies are there.
It's clearly a cesspool.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful.
Except for the House of Representatives, it's a cesspool.
No.
That's the only shining light we have in the city.
Mark, I don't understand why you would stand with these horrible fat cat bankers and stand with these horrible ripoff artists who have stolen literally the greatest wealth transfer from the common man, the lower middle classes, the poor people. They have taken billions and trillions of dollars and siphoned it upward. All this so they can watch as Rome burns. Why don't you get back in the game? Why don't you join ranks and put your shoulder with us against the wheel?
I support the 1% for the same reason that people support
greed, for human greed.
Winning sports teams.
Oh, goodness.
There is a team that succeeds and a team that fails. And the team that fails doesn't have
So you just want to win.
Right? Don't we all want to win?
You don't care how many people fall by the wayside, how many people slip through the cracks
if
of the safety net.
If everyone would simply
you think everybody,
pull themselves up by their
goodness,
bootstraps,
oh my goodness.
Everyone could be billionaires. And if they can't be billionaires, there are very good jobs at McDonald's.
I wish.
There are jobs out there. In fact, the minimum wage is a little too much. We actually think if we paid people 10 cents an hour. Let me give you an example. The Chinese laborer.
Right.
They will work for 10 cents a day.
Those are
Why can't we
servants.
train American workers to accept Chinese wages? Then we could build products that are cheaper that would serve people like me.
There's no way for a couple or a family or a parents or a family of four to live on these wages you're talking about. There's no way for them to make it. There's no way for them to get through.
Then move to China. Then they just need to leave.
I wish you had been in Pennsylvania when our dear leader Obama told that random plumber, Joe, told him, it's better when
he was a hero, Joe the plumber.
It's better when you spread it around. And that's the truth. That's the real, honest, wonderful kernel of sort of gospel good news that I bring to you. Is that we finally have in office someone who has deconstructed the American experiment that you've talked about, the sort of pillars and stovepipes and cones of wealth and privilege. He's finally shattered all these racial boundaries. He's shattered all these socioeconomic boundaries. He's a wonderful ambassador for the world. He won a Nobel Peace Prize in the first 9 days of being in office. He solved the Arab crisis. He solved Middle East peace. What's next? I mean, he's going to let immigration be fixed. He's going to get gay marriage through. He's probably going to balance the budget finally in his last 4 years. It's going to be a beautiful thing. You just need to sit back and enjoy it.
I understand that the world is anti-American. Everyone in the world hates us.
Oh, no.
And therefore they support this socialist
They hate the vision of
Kenyan
America
Muslim.
that you were talking about.
They give him a Nobel Prize when he hasn't done anything in office. And they do that because he's anti-American and they want to show how anti-American they are.
You missed the point completely.
I mean, Obama's practically French. If he weren't Kenyan, he'd be French. Because he's anti-American in that way.
No. I understand where you're coming from because I used to be there too. But just like an AA meeting, you'll get through the steps and you'll understand.
His middle name is Hussein. This is clearly a Muslim terrorist who took on the highest presidency
this is a community
in order
organizer.
to secretly attack the United States of America.
Who gave up the chance to be wealthy at an early stage in life after going to the best schools in the nation, gave up the chance to be wealthy after going to Columbia and NYU and Occidental, and decides to go out there in the rail yards of Chicago and fight with Jesse Jackson and fight with Al Sharpton and fight with all these individuals who have done so much for our civil rights movement. I mean, they have solved every problem the African American community has had the last 40 years. There's been no grandstanding from these individuals. There's been no personal profit in their national action networks or the Rainbow Coalition. It's been about solving problems. The black community, the black churches, the black families are stronger and better for it.
Look, Barack Obama was planted.
Oh, my
The
goodness.
guy is clearly not
If
born
he
in the
was, I
United
thank
States.
God he was.
He's not born in the United States.
This is the best thing that's ever happened to this nation.
Kenyan
The best
was
thing.
chosen. And I got to tell you, he tricks a lot of people.
No,
he talks about
no.
human rights. He talks
No.
about caring for people.
He's a wonderful family man,
Barack-
father of two,
Barack
loyal
Obama
husband.
Is a closet terrorist.
Not at all.
He is.
Not at
That's
all.
why he's unwilling to take
This
any
is a man
action
who loves
against
his
any
nation.
terrorism around the globe. I don't even think he killed Osama bin Laden. I think this
oh,
was
my
all
word.
one of those secret plans that he pretended
Wow.
to, but really he's working with Osama
See,
to
and
take
this is,
down America.
you're falling into the old canard of liberals not being able to be strong on defense, not being able to protect Americans in a national security sense. We've
They're
done.
cowards.
He's done what
You
what's
wouldn't
had
fight
to be
Iraq.
done.
You wouldn't
He's
fight in Afghanistan.
He's ended
You
a
wouldn't
dumb
fight-
war, and he's done the right thing in
Let's
Afghanistan.
face it, liberals are cowards.
We're gonna not
There's
at all.
never been
not
a
at
liberal
all.
leader that's won any war ever.
We've built a beautiful thing. We've built a beautiful little snow globe of democracy right in Kabul, right in Afghanistan. And as soon as we pull out, you're going to see this beautiful little crystalline entity sort of living on its own. You're going to see Hamid Karzai and the Taliban sort of sit down like the lion and the lamb.
Why are liberals so weak? Why
We're
are they
not.
so
We're
unwilling
not.
to use force
We just
when force is
value-
necessary? When we have American interests around the globe, and we have rich people that need to be protected around the
No,
globe, and there's
no.
oil all around the globe. Look, there's oil in Venezuela.
It's about relating to
Chavez
people.
is dead.
It's about relating
to
to people.
invade and grab it.
No, it's about relating to people. It's about finding our brethren across the globe, finding them in their hopes, their struggles, their dreams. Nelson Mandela almost passed away this weekend. We were thrilled to see him survive yet again. There's an example of a bright, shining city on the hill. Look at what's happened to South Africa. In the last 20 years, economic wonders since apartheid is over. No problems, no crime, no strife, no robbery, no home invasions. It's a beautiful thing. The diamond mine industry is booming there because they've handed over power successfully to the lower classes.
The stock market
You've got to get on board,
is
Mark.
up
You've got to get
despite
on board.
Obama. And one of the reasons it's up, and one of the reasons that I have put all of my investments in the Koch brothers, put all my investments in coal mining, is because I
Such
understand.
robber barons, Mark. Such robber barons.
I understand that that's
They
where our
don't care
future
about
is.
the American experiment.
Our future is in fossil
They're
fuels.
gaming the system,
Our
Mark.
future is in burning
The
coal.
power is with the people, Mark. You got to quit looking at this from a political party structure and look at organizing and mobilizing and look at your fellow brethren and sisters and get mobilized and get
let's
together.
talk about energy for a
Let's
moment.
do.
So you have the Appalachian Mountains. They've
Yes.
existed for, I don't know, 4 billion years
Yes.
or so. And we've never truly utilized all the coal that's underneath. So why not bomb them? Use the coal there. That way you don't have to worry about workers, which costs much more money. And then we get coal really cheap,
Mark,
and my
no.
investments make more
Mark,
money.
I love the Smoky Mountains. Do you want even smokier mountains? Do you want a complete layer of silt and
When's
ash
the last time you were in the
above
Smoky
us?
Mountains?
Oh, I was there last year. It's gorgeous.
Well, you know
I like
what?
to hike. I like to drive my Subaru.
We'll keep one
I
Smoky
drive my
Mountain
Subaru. I
for
take
you
my
liberals.
Labradoodle, and I go out there with my hybrid, and we have a great time. We eat granola. We eat kashi for breakfast.
Tell you what.
It's beautiful. You should try
we'll
it sometime.
keep one Smoky
but
Mountain.
don't knock those mountaintops
No.
off.
We'll keep one mountain.
No,
We'll
no.
call it Smoky Mountain Park.
No.
And we'll put rides on
No,
it
the
like
answer-
Disneyland.
the
It'll be owned
answer-
by private interests.
the
And we'll
answer-
charge a toll. And if you want to see
As
your
Secretary
Smoky Mountain,
Secretary Chu and President Obama were trying to do is to put more solar panels on top of those mountains. Invest every cent we've got in things like Teslas, in things like the solar power of the green
There's no
companies that can
profit.
develop all these energies. You just got to give it time.
There's no profit in
We'll be at
solar
Star Trek
energy
standards
because
in
you
like
can't-
10 years.
No, there's no profit.
It's like a race to the moon. It's like Kennedy. You got to go with it. You got to grit your teeth and just go with it.
I can grab land.
You're selfishly looking in the short term.
I can grab land. I can drill for oil.
You're killing your
I can
own
charge for
future,
oil.
Mark. You
I
are.
I can't charge for sun.
Sure you can.
How are we going to make a
Sure you
profit off
can.
the sun?
You can make
There's
panels.
no way to make a
you can have
profit off the
distribution
sun.
pipelines and channels.
No,
Everybody
no.
will have theirs.
The
We'll be
profit
breathing easier.
is in
We won't have
oil
these
and
crazy
coal.
hurricanes.
No,
We won't have this
but
crazy
here's what we
warming
could do. We
or
could
climate
sell,
change.
We could sell gas masks.
Oh, my
and make
goodness.
even more money
Oh, my
selling
goodness.
gas masks to keep out the soot.
Mark.
Once we put
Mark.
I know arsenic gets in the water when we blow up mountains, but when it does, we could sell water filtration systems. Don't you believe in capitalism? How are we not going to make money if we don't sell coal and then we see a clean air? Look at what your communist China has done. Their air is
Where you
miserable.
can't see your hand in front of your face?
Exactly.
I was going to say the answer is
They
blowing in the
need- they
wind,
need
but
more
it's not
capitalism.
blowing in the
They
wind
need-
over
they
there.
need to sell more gas masks. And I
No,
tell you
no,
something,
no.
the
They're
gas
selling.
masks-
They're selling canned air now.
I know,
They're
and
selling like
that's
12-ounce canned air.
That's right.
That's a dystopia. That's not a future you
that
want
tells
for
you
your
that-
future children and
that-
grandchildren and nephews and nieces.
Tells you that
That's
capitalism
nothing you
works.
want.
See,
No.
air used to be free.
That
but
tells you
now,
that
if
short-sighted,
if you pollute the air
fear-filled
enough,
choices are the ones that you're making.
if you pollute the air enough,
No.
a can of air can be
No.
sold for a lot of money.
You've got to
and we
think
can
about
make a
windmills,
profit.
Mark.
Do you
You've
not
got to
believe
think
in
about
capitalism? Is
valley
that it? You hate capitalism.
No, you merge these
you
things.
Hate
you
profits.
merge the private sector. You merge the ideas that are right on the cusp of scientific future. You merge the ideas of the Google car and the windmills, valleys full of windmills, valleys full of solar reflecting panels. You're going to be able to power every single thing in this country, every gadget you could ever want, with no waste. No radioactive lithium.
How do you make a
no
profit
place
from
to hide anything underground? None of these
That would
things.
destroy our economy.
Not at all.
Our economy runs on
new
people making
nodes,
a profit from
new
products.
little nodes of distribution, new little ways of people getting to and from work, planned communities. Mayor Bloomberg knows best. The central planners, the urban planners, they know where to put things. Trust them. Allow them to put the suburbs here and bring them in closer to the city, have grids and demographic groupings of cities, and it'll all be fine.
Your Mayor Bloomberg is a real problem.
Oh, he's a beautiful person. He's saving lives. He is saving lives one soda at a time.
We have a right to be
one
obese.
soda at a time.
We have a right to smoke tobacco.
No.
We have a right to charge other people with
because
smoke
I'm
tobacco.
paying for this in my health care.
Well, no. We don't have a right to smoke marijuana.
I am.
We don't have a right to smoke marijuana. Marijuana is evil, but tobacco is good.
And beyond
tobacco
that,
helps farmers.
No.
Tobacco helps red-blooded Americans who live in Kentucky and North Carolina. Marijuana helps blue-blooded Americans who live in California.
We want every
marijuana
American.
is dangerous. Tobacco is good, and we really want to encourage tobacco. One of the things, for example, that the conservative judge did recently that I highly support is he said it's illegal to put warning labels on the cigarettes. He said if you put pictures on it showing people how dangerous it is, they're not going to buy a lawful product.
Would you give matches to children, Mark? Would you give firecrackers
if I could sell them?
And guns? Well, that's a lack of conscience on your part. I'm sorry that you've adopted the bad parts of conservatism.
I believe in capitalism.
I really
and to me, all this needless regulation, if
No.
I want to sell guns or firecrackers, or if I want to sell tobacco to
Mayor
children,
Bloomberg
let me sell it. I don't need your
others
government
like him
stopping me from doing
have
needless
wisely
regulation.
decided in their infinite positions of power that smoke-free rooms and restaurants and bars are better for everybody. Everybody has a better time. Everybody enjoys
Not if you want
themselves.
to smoke.
Well, that's a shallow, short-sighted goal. The founders weren't thinking of these things
The
when they
founders
word
were all
this
about
document you talk
individual
about.
rights.
They weren't
The Bill
thinking
of
of
Rights
32
is
ounce.
all about individual
They weren't
rights.
thinking about
The
32 ounce.
community
Filled with sugar, filled with fructose, filled with all these
People
chemicals.
have a right to be obese.
No, they know it because we're in this together.
It's
Our
freedom.
healthcare system is fraught with waste. It's fraught with overtax and overweight Americans. We've got to clean our act up. We've got to start individually.
Well, I agree that it's
sort of like
overtaxed.
it's sort of like the Buddhist principle. You got to start inside and work your way out.
I do
It really is
I
a
do
shift
agree that we're
in
overtaxed.
paradigm, Mark.
When we come back from break, I want to talk about all the ways in which we are overtaxed. We can start with Social Security, the
Mark.
estate tax, and particularly tax on wealth. We need to end all taxes on wealth.
Everybody needs to pay their fair share.
Will the 1% have their yachts?
You've got to pay your fair share.
If you want to join the discussion, we encourage you to do so. Pick up the phone and dial 888-488-MARK, 888-488-6275, or 571-749-1166. We'll be right back.
I need a job.
Necesito trabajo. I would like to speak English better. Me gustaría hablar inglés mejor.
I want to be a U.S. citizen.
Quisiera ser ciudadano de los Estados Unidos.
For over 35 years.
Por más de 35 años.
The Hispanic Committee of Virginia has been serving our community.
El Comité Hispano de Virginia ha estado sirviendo a nuestra comunidad.
Job training and placement,
Capacitación, ayuda para conseguir trabajo,
education for children and adults,
educación para niños y adultos,
immigration, naturalization, and medical referrals.
ayuda para los procesos de inmigración y naturalización y orientación sobre médicos
Are a small part of what we do.
son solo una pequeña parte de lo que hacemos.
For help, information, or to volunteer,
Para ayuda, información o para ofrecerse como voluntario,
contact the Hispanic Committee of Virginia,
comuníquese con el Comité Hispano de Virginia,
helping everyone participate more fully in American society.
ayudando a todos a participar plenamente en la sociedad norteamericana.
Hey, Lena. Where's yours?
Would you notice if you were missing half your kidney function? According to the National Kidney Foundation, 20 million people have chronic kidney disease, and 20 million more may be at risk and not even know it. Anyone with high blood pressure, diabetes, or a family history of chronic kidney disease is at risk. Early diagnosis is vitally important. To get the whole story, talk to your doctor and visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org or call for a free brochure. Because when it comes to chronic kidney disease, you might not
We're
know
back
the
to
half.
the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the show. This is Mark Levine talking about how I've been thinking that the 99% have to work too hard. And they really can't beat the 1%. The Occupy movement was a complete failure. It's time to recognize that the 1% have it all and should have it all. Whatever is right. And that's why I declare today, April 1st, 2013, that I am now a conservative, and particularly a George Will conservative. I hope you like my bow tie. My guest is Matt Robbins of the American Majority. He's executive director.
That's right.
And this organization,
For a little longer.
actually, yeah, I mean, I don't know how you'll last.
I don't think I can do it with my new life mission.
This organization helps Tea Party members,
Right.
But you've changed in your view as well.
And I think I can go back now as sort of a St. Paul. You know, I can go back having been the chief prosecutor of liberals and being the one who imprisoned them.
Well, that
I think
makes
I can
sense.
go back now and teach them and reverse engineer this bomb and show them where the pivot points are and show them where the conservatives are gaming the system like you are for short-sighted personal gain.
No, look.
Absolutely.
Redistribution
We're all
of
in this
wealth.
together. There's plenty to go around, Mark. You
There-
really
there
don't have
is
to worry.
not.
There is
not. Look,
the
the
richest
one-
country that's ever existed. We are blessed with every natural resource. We should shower it down on our brothers and sisters. Why are we building, these countries and these nations? Why are we doing these overseas adventures that you conservatives got us into?
The top
when we could be
1%.
fixing schools and roads right here in America.
The top 1%
Why?
only have 2/3 of the nation's wealth. The top 10% only has 90% of the nation's wealth. Surely there's more wealth
Oh, my
that can
goodness.
go to the top
Oh, my
1%.
goodness. Maybe in
if we
Fort
simply
Knox,
end
maybe.
if we end all income taxes,
Oh, my
end all
goodness.
estate taxes, we should tax poor people's
Mark.
wages, definitely. But to the idea, rich people
Do
are
you
the
know how
jobs
hard
creators.
these people work for their minimum wages? Do you know how much back-breaking labor there is involved in picking
Who creates
strawberries,
those jobs?
in digging
Rich
ditches?
people create those jobs.
Oh, my
if
word.
rich people couldn't inherit,
Multinational corporations create those jobs.
If rich people-
un-American multinational corporations that simply want the lowest wage wherever they can get it, whether it's Egypt or Guatemala or America, they'll do it. They'll put a plant wherever they can.
if rich people were not allowed,
You've got to be more patriotic than this, Mark. You got to think of your brothers and sisters. You really do.
if rich people were not allowed to inherit millions and billions of dollars tax-free, they would not create jobs.
Oh, my
Those
goodness.
minimum
They sit on
wage
those
jobs
millions and
that
billions.
you're
They
creating.
sit on
we
them, they
invest.
sit in their bank
Sometimes we
accounts.
invest in China
They're not
because
taxed
the
on
Chinese
them.
workers
Their windfall
work
profits
harder
are not taxed.
for less wages.
Their estate taxes are not taxed. Their capital gains taxes are not
you liberals
taxed.
support all those taxes. What do those taxes do?
Those taxes
take money
make life
away.
livable for everyone else.
They take
those
money
taxes
away.
are the cost of doing business in a civilized country.
When you
do
tax
you
the
want
rich-
people to die in the street? Do you want a Charles Dickens village?
when you-
do you want a sort of Scrooge, let them go to the poorhouses
Scrooge
mentality? Is that what
had
you want?
Thousands of gold pieces.
Is that what you want?
This idea that
you want
would
no
take-
middle class. You want very rich and very poor,
Scrooge
and that's
gets
it.
to keep his gold. Why would you take away this gold?
That's not the
This
America
man,
that we're
he
gonna fight for,
has carefully
Mark.
counted
That's not the
every gold
America that
piece.
we're gonna fight
he has
for.
spread them out, and he knows that he has exactly 4,236
And was Scrooge happy
gold
or
pieces.
sad about that?
Well, until you liberals send in some ghosts to making
my
him happy,
goodness.
I'm sure he
Scrooge
was
saw the
quite
light
happy.
just like I did.
I'm
He
sure he was
saw the
quite
light
happy.
just like I did.
Look.
Realized he had a heart for his fellow man and declared he would keep Christmas every day of the year from
Let
then
me
on.
talk about why Mitt Romney is my hero.
Oh my goodness.
Okay? Because Mitt Romney understands that if you're wealthy, you should be able to keep your wealth. And he gives an answer for everyone. The answer for everyone, if you want to be wealthy, simply become wealthy, and then you get to keep your wealth. And it's something that any American can do if they're just willing to work hard. Let's face it, poor people are lazy.
Mark.
People who don't make
Mark.
millions of dollars are lazy because they didn't go out and do what Mitt Romney did.
You know what the real problem
and
with
get
Mitt
the money
Romney is,
from his-
Mark?
Look.
The real problem with Mitt Romney
Let me
is...
finish,
please.
and then you can explain. Mitt Romney told us how to get wealth. It's very simple. You borrow money from your parents, you start a business, you make millions, and then what do? You keep it.
That's not the American dream.
That is what, if every American would
That's not
simply
the
follow
American
Mitt
dream.
Romney's footsteps, we would all be
And
rich.
the real problem with Mitt Romney is the fact that we have enough resources and enough material wealth. He should not have been talking about the 47% who are on government assistance of one form or another. It should have been the 97%
you're
of
right.
Americans who are on government assistance.
You're
There ought to be a
right.
chicken in every pot. There ought to be a meal in every stomach. There ought to be school and Head Start.
Who's going to pay
and
for that?
early education and
Who's going to pay
S-chip.
for that? Scrooge?
All of
You're
all
going
of
to take
you.
away Scrooge's
your millions
gold
and
pieces?
your Swiss accounts. You could turn this over tomorrow.
The reason we have money in Swiss accounts is because American taxes are too
un-American.
high.
It's
If your
un-American.
taxes were lower, we wouldn't have to put money in
If
Swiss
you
accounts
would
and
have a
Cayman
heart,
Islands accounts.
if you cared about people, if you cared about anybody besides yourselves, you would realize this is a collective good, and it's better for America when we invest in each other, when we invest in our children,
what you
who
liberals
are the
don't
future, as
understand.
Whitney Houston would say.
Here's what you liberals don't understand. It's a dog-eat-dog world out
It doesn't
there.
have to be that way.
Everybody hates everybody.
You're talking about an old adversarial way of looking at the world.
We are in a very difficult world.
This is gone with
you
the
have
Cold
this
War.
kumbaya idea that everyone can get along.
If you
simply
we
look
would.
out for yourself,
No.
then everyone else will do just fine.
What's so wrong with diplomacy and talking to your fellow man and talking to your interloping
If you can
strangers?
get something for it, I'm fine with talking to them.
You talk and you understand them. You put yourself in their shoes. You walk a mile in his moccasins, as the Native Americans said.
Why?
And you understand where
If
he's
I can-
coming
I'll just
from,
buy his
so
moccasins.
that you can realize how you can help each other. There's no winners and losers in this game.
Of course there
No,
is.
there's not. We're
Look,
all in this together.
The banks are winners. The Koch
He who
brothers
has
are
the
winners.
most
You want to know who
toys-
the biggest losers? The Occupy movement.
He who
A
has
bunch
the
of
most
kids
toys-
sitting around in the dirt until they're arrested. They're the losers. They should simply dress up, wear a bow tie,
He who
apply
has the
to a
most
bank,
toys does not
and
win.
and then run it.
This is not Monopoly.
Of course they do.
It's not. You can't take it with you, Mark. You might as
can.
well use
Let me
it
tell you how you take it with
and
you.
shower it upon each other
Let me
as
tell you
you
how you
get
take it
to
with you.
enjoy it during life.
With careful investment,
No,
through careful
no,
use
no.
of
That's a
trust,
fallacy.
through careful use of trust, you can make sure that your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, and your great-great-great-great-grandchildren never have to work a day in their
I would
life.
submit to
That
you.
is conservative
I'll submit
values.
to you great liberals like Bill Gates, like Warren Buffett, like Garth Brooks, who said,
They're not great.
I've got enough money for my grandchildren to be loaded. I'm going to give the rest away. All the rest of my days.
That's crazy talk.
I'm going to give it away.
Why
I'm
would
going
they
to
give
build
it away?
hospitals. I'm going to
It's
build
like-
wings.
it's like
I'm
money
gonna
has
give
no
to my county
meaning to
government.
them.
No, it's a wonderful thing. A tiny bit, a micro loan in Bangladesh, a micro loan in the inner city, a free enterprise zone,
Bangladesh?
something like that is a wonderful thing for someone.
If the people in Bangladesh happen to get richer, how are they going to make the clothes
Oh,
we wear? How are they going to make the products we buy?
Again, so
if
short-sighted.
we allow,
so short-sighted.
If we allow,
you should be looking for free trade, Mark. You should be looking for fair trade.
I believe in free trade.
Fair trade.
I'm a
sorry.
conservative.
You should be looking for agreements with Colombian coffee bean providers, making sure that every bean is inspected by government entities.
Let me tell you the
making sure
advantage
the
of free trade.
safety
Let me tell you
and
the
the
advantage of free
quality and the proper minimum wage has been paid. You should be looking for all these things every time you have a sip.
Look, Matt, let me tell you the advantage of free trade.
Please.
American workers are paid too much.
Oh,
They've
my
got
goodness.
unions giving them all kinds of crazy
You know that
benefits.
real
like
wages have stagnated.
healthcare and food.
Real
and
wages have stagnated for 40
pensions.
years. You know this.
Well, but they need to go a little bit lower.
No,
and I'll
we
tell you
don't.
why.
We need to raise that investment.
We can go to Mexico.
What do you have against your
and
fellow
China
Americans?
and India? Nothing but.
Why do you hate
if
America?
Mexicans and Indians and Chinese
Why do you hate America,
are willing
Mark?
to work for
Seriously.
less, we should go to
So you're
Mexico, India, or China.
You despise your fellow countrymen.
I like the 1%.
You do.
And I think that.
And you
that-
hate everyone else.
I don't hate them.
I feel for you. My heart bleeds
They just
for
need
you.
to work for
It really
me.
does.
I feel
It
for
does.
them.
Some of them can't work.
People
many of them
need to know their
Many of
place.
them are disabled. Oh, that's just class.
look.
We don't have a class society in America. If you want one, you can go somewhere else.
Well,
you can go to
our
India. You can go to
founders
Britain.
understood that.
You can go somewhere like that.
Well, Britain used to be a
This
good
country-
class-filled society full of
This
earls
country
and
is
dukes
built
and nobles.
on the idea that we are all equal, that all men are created equal, all men and women.
Well,
are
not
created
women.
equal.
No, women aren't included in here.
Absolutely, we are.
They're not in here.
And
Look,
you're lost in time, my friend, and you'll be extinct soon, just like the dodo. You will.
Women.
And I'll hate to see you go as a friend, but I'll be glad that your strain of conservatism is dead.
Women's bodies belong to men. Right?
Oh, my word.
They are the property until the Married Women's Emancipation Act of 1913 or so.
no.
Before then, it was understood that married women,
You're
like
looking at it all
slaves,
wrong.
were property of men.
You're looking at it all wrong.
And then liberals came around and tried to change it all. And now we have.
If we could
we
just-
have women who think they can run in government.
If we could enshrine.
People would just know their place. Let me give you an example of a system, a good conservative system, the Indian caste system. In that system, everybody knows their place. The untouchables are untouchable. The Brahmins are the Brahmins.
And it's the most
everyone
frustrated
knows,
country on the planet.
Everyone knows their proper place.
It's a boiling pot. It's ready to overflow. Back to women for a second. If we could just enshrine, like the Equal Rights Amendment tried to in the 70s, if we could enshrine the ability of every woman to make the exact same amount of money as every male for the same job, if we could put that in the federal law with a constitutional amendment,
Women are just going to get pregnant and take care of their
simultaneously,
baby.
I was about to say, and simultaneously guarantee that all women can abort on demand at any point during a pregnancy, first, second, third trimester, post-birth. If you can guarantee those two rights, equal pay and abortion on tap, women will be truly free. They'll truly be on equal ground with men for the first time in human history.
We need to force
Why
women.
would you resist that?
I'll
that
tell you
dream
why.
for
Because we
women?
need a new generation.
Oh,
That's
my
why
goodness.
we have to force women to have babies. That's
Oh,
why
my
we can't
goodness.
allow gay people to get married. It's all about procreation. How are we going to have
It's about
a
loving,
new
consenting
generation?
adults. It's about two adults who are equal and peers in this country, in this democracy, understanding that they have the same rights as everybody else.
Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve.
I feel for
it's
you,
the way
Mark,
it's
I
been
do.
for thousands of years.
I feel for you. You've
And
got a very myopic perfect little bird's eye view there.
Is
do.
right. Look, let me give you an example. Let's say a woman wants a job.
Right.
And she wants to act like a man.
Sure.
All right. When she could be at home taking care of the kids. Now we have kids that are growing up, latchkey children.
That's so limited.
They have no mother. The father's working, the mother's working.
We have technology.
And the
we have
kid
support.
has no one.
Family resources and support systems for those people.
We have to protect the next generation of
families.
families.
The state will take care of them. We have daycares. We have pre-kindergartens. We have a Head Start. We have all these programs after school. We have midnight basketball. We have all these
whose
places.
money are you taking from?
For kids
You're
to
taking
go.
from the Koch brothers to provide for
we're
those
taking
things.
a little bit from everybody. We're taking spreading around the pain.
No,
and
you know the
spreading around
1% pay most of the
Not
taxes
at all.
in this country.
That's an outright lie. You hide your
know
money.
that.
You do.
Well, only some of the money.
Most of your money, you do.
Only the money we have to pay taxes.
We just want
we don't hide the money. We don't have to pay taxes.
We want a fair distribution of taxes and wealth in this country. That's all we want. We want a level playing field.
Let's talk about Obamacare.
Let's do.
The most horrible socialist affliction ever put on America.
Most monumental.
What Obamacare does.
Most monumental landmark achievement.
Says that the government will tell you exactly what health care you need. It's going to say, you want an operation? Sorry, no, you can't get one.
It's not
if
like
you have
that.
to apply to the bureaucrat.
No.
And let's face it, the thing that Obamacare does is that's the worst, is it makes sure that that if you don't have insurance, you get it. Now, who pays for that? The rich pay for that. The hospitals pay for that.
People pay for that with their premiums.
Health insurance companies pay for that.
Wealthy insurance companies who can more than afford it, who post record trillion-dollar profits, pay for that.
Health insurance companies.
They've got huge pools of money.
Corporations are people too, my friend. I've been listening to Mitt Romney. Mitt Romney, excuse me. Matt Robbins, I've been listening to Mitt Romney.
There we go.
Corporations are people too.
No.
And
They're faceless, humanless
would take away
bastions of
corporate
pure profit.
rights. And I gotta tell you something, corporations also have a right to bear arms because they are people.
No, not at all.
They have a right to bear arms.
No.
They have a right to free speech. They have a right.
Let's talk about what Obamacare really does.
Not to be punished.
Obamacare, with those wealthy insurance companies, finally did what the conservatives never could do in all their years of governing. Obamacare said, we're going to finish the New Deal, we're going to finish the vision of FDR and finish the progressive crowning achievement. We're going to make it so that your personal health, your DNA, your genetics don't prevent you from having a level playing field with everybody else.
Why do you liberals
so now
want
you
to
have the
punish
choice.
Successful people?
You're not being punished.
Why do you hate success?
You're not at all.
Why do you hate people who work hard and make billions of dollars?
If you're a success, you should be happy. You should have this beatific grin on your face to be able to give back. It's a wonderful feeling.
Face it, you liberals
it's a wonderful
hate
feeling
people
to invest.
You hate the rich.
Not at all. We want everybody to go
you
along.
Hate everyone
and
in a bow tie.
We don't.
You want to tear apart and bring on.
Although
the French
I did put
Revolution.
this tie on for you. I had a tie-dye T-shirt on before the show. I did suit up and put a tie on.
You're basically wearing a hallucinogen.
No, not at all. Not at all.
That's what liberals do. They smoke it and then they.
No, we live in a beautiful world. I wish
We're just not going to agree here.
Imagine if you can.
This is our last break. You still have a chance to call in if you want to comment. The toll-free number is 888-488-MARK. 888-488-6275. We'd like to hear what you think of our transformations today. April 1st, 2013. Give us a call. Let us know.
She's had more than a dozen fractures. And in the next few years, she faces 2 major surgeries to strengthen her fragile bones. She's only 10 years old. Most people don't worry about fragile bones until late in life. For those with osteogenesis imperfecta, brittle bones are a concern throughout their lifetime. Find out how you can strengthen this child's future.
Diabetes is a killer. After I was diagnosed, I didn't feel sick, so I didn't listen to my doctor. Then it struck. I had a heart attack, then a stroke, and I was only 49.
Most people with diabetes also have high blood pressure and cholesterol, which can cause severe heart damage. In fact, 2 out of 3 people with diabetes die from heart disease or stroke.
Don't let diabetes destroy your life.
Call for your free diabetes survival guide. Choose to live.
to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to the Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Mark Levine, and I am proud to announce a transition today. Today, April 1st, 2013, I have seen the error of my ways. I have spent my entire life as a liberal Democrat, but it's very hard to succeed as the 99%. And the 1% have a point. They have the wealth. They should be allowed to keep their wealth. Redistribution is socialism. Socialism is anti-American. And as I look through my new Heritage Foundation Constitution, I've thrown away the other one. I'm beginning to understand.
It's very sad.
The wisdom of the founders. You know, a true conservative respects the original wisdom of the founders. And really, we should go back to wearing wigs. We should go back to white men with property being able to vote. Really, slavery, you know, I mean, it gets such a rap.
Mark.
But the slaves got care from the masters. They got food and shelter.
They were property.
They were property, right.
And we're still paying for that original sin all these decades and all these centuries later. The sin of those men. You revere these men as gods, as sort of marble stone statues. They were human beings who created a government on the fly as they dodged taxes and dodged the British and levies and customs. They were smugglers. They were outlaws. They realized they'd be hanged if they got caught writing these things.
How dare you
for
attack
sedition.
the founders that
They
way.
realize that.
We
have to accept.
You become a liberal and immediately become anti-American.
Not at all. You just have to accept that it's not always my country, love it or leave it. That it's not always America first. These men were mortal.
It has to be America first.
No, not at all.
That's one of the things that
if you love your country,
always believe
if you love your country, you will look at it warts and all. You will look at it with all its mistakes. You'll look at all their human flaws and foibles, and you'll realize that just as they made mistakes, we have to keep continually fine-tuning and tuning up our government and changing it to make it more progressive, more equal, more fair, more loving, more kind. Every single one of us matters.
We're
be all
nice
in this together.
To live in a liberal universe.
Oh, it's wonderful.
Where people
it's wonderful.
care for each other. But that's a dream.
No,
that's not the world in which we live.
It's real.
We live in a world of capitalism. And in capitalism, the rich succeed and the poor fail.
No.
And that is
it doesn't
the
have to be
invisible
that
hand
way.
that Adam Smith
doesn't
designed.
have to be that way.
It's all about making sure that those
because
who
you
are
inject
better than
federalism,
others.
You inject the federal government in there to make sure that everybody plays by the rules, to make sure that government controls the big banks.
Let me tell you why we need
controls the small shops. And make
States'
sure
rights
that
are better, and local rights are better. Let me tell you why.
States were hanging black people 30 years ago.
Let me tell you why
States were hanging black people 30 years ago.
People can't remember who the President of the United States is, who the Vice President of the United States is, but they know the name, address, and phone number of their city councilmen. They know their state legislatures. They know exactly what's going on at the state level. They don't follow what Barack Obama is doing. They follow what their Virginia assemblyman is doing. And because the local level is closer to the people, and because state governments are never corrupt and never make any mistakes, we need to ignore the federal government and respect the wisdom of each and every state.
You're right in one respect. People pay attention to the folks in their community who actually reflect their values, and that's unions. That is unions in every community, whether it's firefighters or teachers or policemen, whomever, government employees, county, city. Absolutely. They're us. They're our moms and pops.
Hated.
They're our brothers and sisters. They're making a fair wage for decent work. They're doing honest work all day long, and they represent Main Street, not these fat cats and these tycoons that your tuxedo represents.
Unions used to represent 30% of American workers. Now it's something
they've been destroyed by your Koch brothers.
Like 7%.
They've been destroyed by your Koch brothers.
People are leaving unions because unions aren't helping people. That's why Walmart is such a success. That's why you find people...
Walmart's made deals with China.
People want non-union jobs.
And the World Trade Organization.
Let me tell you why people want non-union jobs. They want non-union jobs, and they have lower wages and no health care.
They do. They're horrible.
But they want non-union jobs because they don't want unions telling them what to do, and union bosses making tons of money. We should have what they call open shop. People should be free to pay union dues or not pay union dues, because at the end of the day, most people won't want to pay union dues, and then they have the right and freedom to not be
Unions are what created this country. They're what created this middle class. They're what created the biggest economic engine in the history of the world. The miracle that is the American economy were created by union labor for 40 or 50 years. And your conservative right politics have destroyed that. And you've got the blood of many people. You've got the blood of many families and many hungry mouths on your conscience.
Andrew Carnegie created America.
I hope you can sleep at night.
John Rockefeller
the robber barons. The government had to come in and break them up with antitrust.
Someone had to build the railroads.
The federal government had to come in. The Chinese built the railroads.
Chinese labor built the railroads.
These guys didn't build it themselves.
Chinese labor built the railroads.
They commanded these Irish and Chinese to build it and die in the process by the millions.
They may have died, but we have
definitely
great transportation.
Died. Oh my God!
Because of it, you got to break.
And that's worth it to you. A shorter commute on Amtrak.
You can't make an omelet without breaking
Biden.
a little bit of angst.
You and Joe Biden can get to Delaware quicker on Amtrak, and that's worth it to you.
Joe Biden is he's an idiot. He's a socialist.
No,
he pretends to be
This is one of the most
everyman.
learned. This is one of the most learned, astute, experienced government servants. 45 years now in American government, since he was 29 years old. This is a man who's seen the levers of
Time
power,
that he hung it up.
who's controlled the levers of power. He'll be president in 2016. I can't wait. He'll continue the legacy of this president, who I'm very glad to assume the identity of. Barack Obama.
Wow.
I think Barack Obama has been the best thing our country could have had this juncture in history.
You just like him because he's black. Let's just face it. You're a liberal. You just like him because he's black. It's time that you admit it.
Barack Obama.
That liberals don't give a damn about Obama's policies. They only like him because he's black. That's why they like Clarence Thomas so much.
If I can borrow a phrase from Marvin Gaye, Barack Obama has created a real racial healing, a real amazing healing in our society. He's really brought us together. He's brought the white man, the brown man, everybody together. He's made us all realize we are one.
It's
we
hard
really are.
To talk to
I know,
Obama
because
this
it's a
way.
beautiful face. It's a beautiful image of a very egalitarian, very loving, very paternal president for once, instead of a heartless oil tycoon or an old geezer who just wanted to arm ourselves to the teeth and fight Russians that were never coming. It's wonderful to have a man like Barack
I wish I
Obama.
had a mask of George W. Bush because he was truly a great president.
I'm not worthy to keep this on. I'm not. I'm not worthy to tie Barack Obama's shoelace.
Well, that's why I didn't put on a George W. Bush mask.
He's done amazing
because
things
I
for this
understand that
country.
George W. Bush was the greatest president ever in American history.
That's where you're so wrong.
I know that because George W. Bush understood what it was like to be the son of a president.
Hard-scrabble Texas oil man.
To be the son of a president.
Educated at Yale, Andover before that.
Yes.
Exeter Academy
he
before that.
understood the common man.
Born on third base and thinks he hit a triple.
He understood the common man.
Okay. That's very standard.
Why do you think he cleared that brush? You know, he could have hired Mexicans to clear that brush.
Yeah.
He cleared that brush himself. Don Young, for example, the congressman from Alaska, his grandfather had wetbacks to clear his brush, but George W. Bush cleared his own brush.
Right.
And he deserves credit for being a man of the people who bought the ranch just before he became president, cleared all that brush for his president, and sold it in 2000.
Is this the same George W. Bush who's now painting by watercolor in his ranch in his retirement? Who's painting pictures of dogs and clouds?
What
We're talking about the hamster's not really going around on the wheel there, Mark.
He is a true hero.
There's not much going on upstairs.
George W. Bush looked at Iraq.
The elevator is on, but it doesn't go to the top.
George W. Bush looked at Iraq, and he said Iraq has all this oil.
I'm sorry, Dick Cheney looked at Iraq and said, let's do this.
George W. Bush and Dick Cheney looked at Iraq.
He had Dick Cheney's arm so far up his ass, it was not even funny.
Look, Dick Cheney understood.
We're talking like ventriloquism of the worst kind.
Dick Cheney was wise enough to understand that when he did his own vice president search, he was the best man for the job.
Right.
And so
I've got some land to sell
he chose himself, and he and George Bush looked at Iraq, and they said, who has invaded Iraq?
Again.
No one has invaded Iraq in 20 years since Iran. Iraq is the third largest oil producer in the world. Now that we invaded Iraq, we can use that oil and give it to people like the Koch brothers and sell it and make Americans richest even richer.
We'll have another bust in 20 years. Look at the man who won the Nobel Peace Prize almost to the day he became president. Look at the man who's solving these problems, who's cutting these Gordian knots.
Solving what problems?
Solving the peace in the Middle East, the Arab Spring.
George W. Bush brought peace to the Middle East.
Creating all this goodwill
what peace has
around
Obama brought?
Are we in wars? Are we involved in wars? We haven't gone into Syria. We led from behind in Libya. What a great example of NATO international cooperation.
You liberals are afraid
We
of wars.
freed Libya from Muammar Gaddafi. Nothing bad has happened in Libya at all. No Americans, nothing bad has really happened in Libya since we took over that invasion. It's been a beautiful thing to watch.
Well,
grand strategy of foreign policy.
Look, the problem with Obama is he didn't use Libya the way we should have. If he had used Libya the way Bush had used Iraq, if we had invaded Libya the way we invaded Iraq, if we had taken the oil the way we took.
Let the post-colonial peoples throw off their oppression. Let
How
them
does that
lead
help
their
America?
own countries.
How does that help America? How does that help the
freedom gets spread
How
around
does that
the
help
globe?
the 1%?
People look at America with such goodwill and such longing and such desire to come here, and they become part of the equation. They come over here and they vote for liberals. They get more government involvement, more federal involvement, more programs. It makes the whole project work, makes the whole experiment work. And unfortunately, it does come out a little more tax rate for you, maybe 37% instead of 35% in your bracket. But it's a very tiny amount for you, and it feeds a lot of people.
It is
feeds millions of people.
To ask for any
really
higher taxes.
I'm sorry you're so hard-hearted.
Let me just break up a few more things because it's really important. Because abortion is murder, because some 50 million American women have had abortions, we need to start locking them up. And we should just start with the ones, we could start with the most recent abortions and go backward, but we really need to lock up a third or so of American women because they are murderers. And, you know, I mean, I do agree with the death penalty. I won't,
even though it's been proven that innocent men and women have died by the score.
But most of them are guilty.
By the score, not true.
Most of the people we execute are guilty.
Empirically not true. The justice projects that go state by state,
they find a few innocent
people. They literally
people.
Find innocent people on every single
those
case.
Those people are too poor to afford an attorney. Justice, it's very clear.
So they deserve to die because they have no money in their pocket?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So we're back to Rome.
Look.
That's where we are.
Look, in America.
That's not America.
You buy justice with money. You buy health care with money.
No.
You buy freedom with money.
No.
America is of the money, for the money, and by the money. That's why
Franklin
if you can't
Roosevelt
afford it,
talks about freedom from
our
fear.
First socialist president.
Freedom from fear, Mark. You should be able to live in this country without having to worry about showing your papers, prove your lineage, prove your identity, prove any of these things. You should be able to live here and draw breath and just exist in perfect harmony with each other.
Herbert Hoover was right. Herbert Hoover understood.
Not at all.
He
led to the Great Depression.
No, we had a stock market collapse in 1929.
Inaction led directly to the Great Depression.
What did Herbert Hoover do? He
Nothing.
cut government spending because he understood that in a bad economic times, the best thing you can do is austerity. Because if you cut government spending, what that does is it balances the budget. He didn't quite balance the budget, but he can close, well, not that close, but Herbert Hoover led us in the direction of balanced budget by cutting government spending in the middle of the Great Depression, and that is the solution today. Barack Obama keeps spending.
Like FDR did with the New Deal, like Harry Truman did with the New Deal, like John F. Kennedy did with the New Frontier. Barack Obama's in direct line with those people.
The government's too big.
No, Americans
The government is doing all kinds of
what's
things.
fair.
The government's doing national parks. The government's doing health care.
Americans want
doing
these
pensions.
things. Americans want a fair wage and a fair retirement. They do. Is that so much to ask for other Americans to have a little bit of property, a little bit of money in their pocket before they leave this earth?
Let them do what George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and the Koch brothers did. Get their own oil company, and they won't have to worry about money
Just
again.
doesn't seem to work out that way. You know, my deed is somehow missing from my interior pocket. Yours is a very, very shallow view of America, my friend.
I've decided that if you can't beat them, join them. And the 1% is right.
You won't be around much longer.
I got to tell you.
You'll be a minority. You know, the white male will be a minority in about 20 years.
Well, we need to stop that.
Tiny minority.
That's why we need tighter borders.
This wave of Obama voters will overtake you, and we'll show you the light.
Folks,
I really will.
I don't know what you think about this transition here, but today, April 1st, 2013, Matt and I have expressed our views, and I was ready to join the American majority, of which he's executive director, which promotes Tea Party candidates, but now he's gone off to
the majority is the 99%, Mark.
The majority is the people who should vote. And I say, in honor of George Will, only the smart people should vote, only the 1% should vote, and the rest should learn to serve. But I do appreciate you coming on the show. April 1st, 2013.